Welcome back to Gallows Humor. My name is Gallows Humor, and today we're talking another true crime story, and I can't fucking wait. It's been a good time researching this one. Watched too many documentaries, read too many books, and took too many notes, but I cannot wait to share the story with you. The way I wrote it, I feel like it's very true crime-esque. I'm going to try delivering it in that way. Hopefully it goes good. We'll see how far it goes. So... On November 13th, 1974, 15-year-old John Nemeth was startled awake by the sound of a dog barking. His eyes sprung open to meet his alarm. 3:02 a.m. John rose from his bed to look out the south window of his attic bedroom. He looked past the vacant house towards the source of the barking, but he couldn't see anything. But John knew that bark. It was Shaggy, the gray and white English sheepdog who lived at 112 Ocean Avenue. He had never been awoken by Shaggy before. The neighbor family kept him in the shed overnight since he wasn't housebroken. 15 minutes pass of consistent barking, and John decided to go downstairs and maybe call the police. As he descended the stairs, the barking ceased. It remained stark quiet for 1 minute, followed by 5 more minutes of barking, and then silence. John changed his mind about going out to investigate and calling the authorities. He had school in a few hours and needed to sleep. Plus, he figured he would get a good look at the Dutch colonial home while he waited for his school bus directly across the street. At 7 a.m. that morning, the neighbor dog who had woken John up a few hours prior was now silent. 2 cars sat in the driveway, both sporting subtle marketing stickers that read, Brigante Carl Buick. Typically, there was a blue Buick Electra in the mess of cars that took up the driveway, but it was gone that morning. 112 Ocean Avenue was a unique home compared to the others on the street. The home was built sideways, facing north and south, versus the standard east and west conformity that echoed throughout the affluent neighborhood. The home iconically looked at all those who passed it through 2 semicircle windows that almost crowned the home. The windows of the large 3-story home were surrounded by a stark black paint. It almost sat as imposing as buildings 10 times its size. Think Overlook Hotel, Danvers State Hospital. It had that same vibe. As she performed her closing duties at the Chatterbox Bar, located at 114 Merrick Road, Deborah Constantino considered stopping by Henry's Bar for a nightcap. Henry's Bar, located at 180 Merrick Road, was a local watering hole, usually open late to serve those working late like Deborah. Unbeknownst to Deborah, Henry's Bar was already closed by 3:30, so she drove past and took a ride on Ocean Avenue. As she traveled south on Ocean Avenue, she couldn't help but notice that the home at 112 Ocean Avenue was completely illuminated. Every light was on in every room. It shone bright in the otherwise dark and quiet neighborhood. And she knew that home, as she had been there before, with friends to swim in the pool. The brightness of the home caught her off guard as she wondered how a house of 5 children could be up and active at 3:45 a.m. Deborah attended high school with the eldest son from that home, Ronnie. As an adult, he frequented Deborah's bar, the Chatterbox. He was known as an aggressive drunk, and she thought about a few times where he lost control and threw a few bar stools around, but other than the light catching her eye from the home, she didn't give it much of a second thought. She turned around and went home. Ronnie woke up at 4 a.m. in the second-floor TV room of his family's home at 112 Ocean Avenue. In his haze, he could see the bathroom light on with the door closed. Outside the bathroom sat Mark's wheelchair. Mark, his younger brother, had been injured during a football game, and while he looked at the wheelchair, Ronnie thought back to the football game where his brother got hurt. He remembered being so pissed off. He got a little irate. He seemed to really only give a shit about his younger brothers, and when I say give a shit, it's not like he gave a lot. I guess I would just say he cared the most for his brothers. So even though it was early in the morning, Ronnie decided to head into work. He wasn't tired anymore. He spent the day prior sleeping off some stomach issues that he was having. He struggled to find his keys, but found a set without a house key on it. He got into his blue Buick Electra and left for Brigante and Carl Buick, which is in Brooklyn, New York, off of Coney Island Avenue. Both Ronnie and his dad worked for Ronnie's maternal grandfather at Brigante Carl Buick. Ronnie was a whatever you needed kind of guy. He didn't do much of anything. Because of that, his grandpa only paid him $80 a week. But he wasn't there for the money. He was there for the pay stub. A year prior, Ronnie had caught a theft charge, and because of that, he was on probation, in which he needed to prove that he was working regularly. While at work, Ronnie tried calling his mother back at the house, but he didn't get an answer. He needed his mother to lay out his pay stubs for him. He then called one of his girlfriend at the time, Sherry. Sherry is a pseudonym. She never allowed for her name to be published. So a lot of people in the story will have pseudonyms. Just keep that in mind. He told Sherry that he was going to head to her place after meeting up with a friend. Since Ronnie's dad, Daddy DeFeo, was off from work that day, he was taking Mark to a doctor's visit, actually, for the injury he received while playing football. Ronnie called it a day at noon. Pretty nice when your daddy's the boss. You know what I mean? You just do whatever the fuck you want. Heading back to Amityville, he stopped and met with a good friend, Robert William Bobby Kelsky, at Henry's bar. Too many sources from what I've read focus on the good looks and athleticism of Bobby and how different he is from Ronnie, which I think is super weird and unnecessary. So Ronnie was known as a chubby rich kid who did horrible in school, and Bobby was known as the opposite. But they both had a love for drinking, drugs, ladies, and cars. I guess it doesn't matter how handsome you are, if you like the juice. The pair of men hung out for a while at Henry's bar before splitting ways. Bobby on his way home for a sandwich and a nap, Ronnie on his way to see Sherry. The time was 1:30 p.m. When he arrived at Sherry's, the duo went to a local mall and shopped a bit. I didn't mention, but on top of the $80 that Ronnie got from his job, his dad was known to give him about $500 a week in 1974 money. So in today's money, that would be a weekly allowance of about $3,200. So he didn't need the job for $80 a week. His dad spoiled the shit out of him. After the mall, once Sherry and Ronnie got back to Sherry's place, Ron attempted to call home again, and he still didn't get an answer. He told Sherry how weird it was that no one was answering at home. They brushed it off, and Ronnie decided to head out to Bobby's place. At 3 p.m., Bobby was startled awake by the sound of his dog barking. Ronnie had made his way over to Bobby's family's home. He went around the back to Bobby's bedroom window. The pair discussed a few things like selling a radio and yada yada. Ronnie mentioned that he still wasn't able to get a hold of anyone at home. Bobby assured him, said, "Dude, things are fine. Don't even trip about it. It's 1974. We're all having a great time." He said, "But listen, let's meet up at Henry's bar at 6 p.m. In the interim, Ronnie went to the bar anyway. He would spend about an hour and a half drinking 4 vodka and 7-Ups. After his concerning amount of alcohol, Ronnie decided to get back into his car. This time, he's heading to the home of Junie and Howard Reimer, good friends of Ronnie's. When Ronnie arrived, Howard was waiting outside for Junie to return home from the store. She was the only one who had a house key, so the locked-out pair sat in Ronnie's car until Junie was done shopping. While the groceries were being unloaded into the couple's kitchen, Junie noted that Ronnie was looking a little nervous, quite nervous, actually. Junie then motions to her fridge and says, "I got some stuff for you up there. I got months ago in the city." Ronnie excused himself, went to the fridge, reached over on top, grabbed a small baggie, and went to the bathroom. After several minutes, he returned in a much calmer, more docile mood. He appeared very normal to Junie and Howard. Before heading out, now that he got his bathroom time, Ronnie again tried to call home. It rang with no answer. Slightly concerned still, he mentioned the situation to Howard and Junie, and he also tossed Junie 40 cents to cover his phone use, which is fucking crazy. I couldn't imagine paying someone for my phone use at their house. I'd just be like, yeah, whatever, dude. But for now, it's back to Henry's to meet up with Bobby.
Every night is boys' night.
The friends met at Henry's bar, and Ronnie just couldn't let it go. Why wasn't anyone answering at home? He tried going back earlier, but it was all locked up, so he still couldn't get in. He was a little buzzed, and he asked Bobby, "What do you think I should do? I'm thinking about just breaking in my house." Bobby, buzzed as well, turns and says, "Do what you gotta do." Well, they're from New York, so maybe something like, "Ronnie, you do what you gotta do. You go to that fucking house, and you get in that fucking window, and you go find your fucking parents." Maybe a little more like that. Maybe. But Ronnie was terrified to break into the family home. He had done it once before, and Ronald Sr., his dad, flew off the rails and took everything out on Ronnie. Hell, they were in a major fight the week before this, so he really didn't want to push his luck. But this time it was a little different. Why wasn't anyone answering the phone? Where was everyone? So Ronnie loads up his blue Electra and drives home, which is about a block away. When he arrived, the home was dark. It was fall on the East Coast, so it got dark by 2 p.m. The easiest way into the home would be through the kitchen, but that meant Ronnie would have to pass Shaggy. The thought alone pissed Ronnie off. He hated that dog, more like resented it. It might stem from a place of jealousy since his dad adored Shaggy. He would tell Ronnie, "Anything you do to this dog," let me get my Italian accent, "anything you do to that fucking dog, I'll do to you," officially marking Ronnie's place below Shaggy. To Ronnie, it was like sharing a plate of food with a rat, and the chef asking you both how you like it. Well, once he got into the house, he was in the kitchen. The entire house was now black, which is a stark contrast from when Deborah saw it 15 hours prior, filling the long walls for a light switch, navigating past furniture and very gaudy decorations. He called out, but didn't get a response. "Hey, Ma!" Like that. Or something. No one responded. So ascending the stairs, Ronnie went to his parents' room first. In the harsh contrast in the hallway light, Ronnie could see his father laying in bed, but something seemed wrong. From the bedroom, Ronnie saw that there was a gunshot wound in his father's back, and in a panic, he ran out the house, through the front door, which was double locked, and back to Henry's bar. Minutes after leaving Henry's bar at 6:30, Ronnie was back already and screaming for help. "Hey, you've gotta help me! Hey, you've gotta help me! My mother and father was shot!" Is what Ronnie was saying. 6 men, including Ronnie and Bobby, packed into Bobby's car and drove around the block to 112 Ocean Avenue. Once there, Bobby went inside and found Ronnie's parents, unresponsive, in bed. Ronnie refused to go back inside. Immediately, Joe Yeswit, another man from the bar, was on the phone begging for help. "We've got 2 shot here. 2 people are dead, okay? Got 2 bullets in the back, done execution style." It took 4 minutes for the operator to understand what Joe Yeswit was talking about, the situation and the location, and everything he said was completely accurate. Only there weren't only 2 bodies in the home. There were 6. Officer Kenneth Griguski, I'll say Griguski, is responding to the DeFeo home. The officer enters the house, cautious and on high alert. The only sound is ringing throughout the home, echoing down from the 3rd floor. It's a faint, harsh ringing sound. Officer Griguski confirmed what he had been told over the phone. A middle-aged couple lay slain in their bed from assumed gunshot wounds. After confirming that, he turned and entered the room across the hall, which belonged to Mark and John, Ronnie's younger brothers. Both boys lay in a similar fashion to their parents, having shared the same fate. Realizing the magnitude of the situation, the officer contacted Suffolk County detectives. Meanwhile, second officer on scene, Officer Tyndall, arrived at the DeFeo home and continued to review the scene. Ronnie's younger sister was found deceased in her bed as well. With hesitation, the officer climbed the second set of stairs to the 3rd floor, following the faint, harsh ringing sound. The officer entered one of the closed doors, and the ringing got louder. It was there that he found the remaining victim, Dawn DeFeo. Her morning alarm was still ringing. It was set for 7:15 a.m., giving her just enough time to get ready for school. By that time, the first detective on scene, Detective Gaspar Rendazzo, approached what appeared to be the only surviving member of the DeFeo family, Ronnie, and asked, "Can you think of anyone who could have done this? Anyone who had it out for your family?" And Ronnie says, "Fellini," like a Italian mob guy. But that was his only response. Louis Fellini, which is a pseudonym for a mafia-connected past roommate of the DeFeos. Once the scene was secured, detectives and eventually pathologists heavily examined the scene. In the DeFeo home lay 6 victims of mass murder, each having been shot at least once with a .35 caliber lever-action Marlin 336, according to the forensic examination and the bullets found at the scene and within the victims. The weapon was designed for hunters looking for a medium power rifle with minimal recoil and close to medium range effectiveness. At max capacity, that gun can hold 6 rounds. The marketing of the gun boasted effectiveness against game similarly sized to a deer, black bear, or a wild hog. And I want to be clear, this small hunting rifle packs some massive punch. The .35 caliber rifle, similar in size to a .357 Magnum round, but with even more energy. A .357 Magnum has a range of 500 to 900 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. It's how much power is in the bullet as it travels. Imagine dropping a bowling ball from the 3rd story of a building. A .35 caliber rifle round, however, has a range of about 1,800 to 2,200 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So take that bowling ball from earlier and raise it to the 9th story and drop it onto a space no wider than a Sharpie marker. In all, 8 shots have been fired, meaning the shooter had to reload at least once. These weapons can be reloaded a round at a time. The victims found at the scene are as follows. Ronald Joseph DeFeo Sr., 43. DeFeo was shot in the lower back, which exploded through the right kidney and exiting out his right nipple. The second round entered DeFeo's spine and ultimately became lodged in his neck. The autopsy would reveal that Ronald Sr. survived for a few seconds to minutes after the second shot. Luis DeFeo Brigante, 42. Luis had been shot once, which passed through and landed on the mattress next to her. The second round entered Luis on the right side, which exited her chest and re-entered her left breast and passed through her wrist. Mrs. DeFeo's ribcage had been shattered. The subsequent bone fragments destroyed the organs around it, including the lungs and her diaphragm and her liver. She too was face down, but her chest was slightly raised and her body was turned to the right. Her position suggested that she had woken up and was likely looking towards the shooter. She was estimated to be alive for up to 10 minutes after being shot. Mark and John DeFeo, 12 and 9. The boys were executed in a similar fashion, both shot in the back at no more than 2 feet away. The killer stood between their twin mattresses, shot once, pivoted, and shot again. His feet never moved from the position. The bullets entered each boy's body in a similar way, destroying their liver, diaphragm, lungs, and heart. Each spent round was found lodged in the boy's box spring. John, the youngest in particular, had his spinal cord severed. This suggested that there was most likely post-mortem movement in his lower limbs. Allison DeFeo, 13. She lay in her bed as the perpetrator entered her room. In a daze, Allison pushed her chest up to enable her to look towards the door. Her eyes opened just in time to meet the barrel of the gun. She was shot in the face. Dawn DeFeo, 18. Lastly, on the 3rd floor lay Dawn. The killer had stood about 2.5 feet away from Dawn and fired into the back of her neck, entering just below her left ear. This crushed her temple and ultimately allowed the left side of her face to cave in. All causes of death were listed as massive hemorrhage due to bullet wounds. Yeah. Crazy. After the bodies of the DeFeo family were discovered on November 13th, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. initially tried to present himself as a sole survivor. At first, Ronald Jr. told police that the murders may have been carried out by a mob hitman named Louis Fellini. Louis Fellini! It's someone his father supposedly had connections with. Because of inconsistencies in Ronnie's story and the potential hitman on the loose, detectives brought him into the station for extended questioning and protection. They really thought there could be a mob guy out looking at doing the DeFeos, I suppose. Plus, Ronnie didn't have anywhere to sleep that night, since everyone at his house was now dead. So over hours of interrogation, his account began to collapse. His timeline changed repeatedly, witnesses contradicted parts of his story. He could not explain why there were no signs of forced entry or struggle. Further gunpowder evidence and other details increasingly pointed to him being the perpetrator. Eventually, he did confess. According to detectives, he said, "Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast." He admitted to using a .35 caliber Marlin to kill his parents and siblings during the night. The case then shifted from investigation to trying to understand motive. Prosecutors argued Ronald DeFeo Jr. hated and feared his father.
"You're mad at your dad, not at me. I forgive you."
There had been years of family conflict and alleged abuse. He may have been motivated partly by insurance money or cash, and drug use at the time and emotional instability played a major role. At his trial in 1975, the defense attempted an insanity plea, claiming that Ronnie heard voices condemning him to kill his family. A psychiatrist for the defense testified that he was mentally ill. Prosecution experts argued he understood what he was doing, regardless of mental illness, which is true. People who are mentally ill still act in a knowing and willful manner. It doesn't mean because you're mentally ill, you have no idea what you're doing. And to assume so is obtuse. The jury ultimately rejected his insanity defense after deliberating for only a few hours. Ronald DeFeo Jr. was convicted on 6 concurrent sentences of 25 years to life. Now, second-degree murder might be a weird note for some of you web sleuths. So DeFeo was convicted of second-degree murder because, under New York law at the time, prosecutors focused on proving that he intentionally killed his family, not necessarily that the murders met the legal standard of first-degree murder. In the 1970s, New York's murder laws were much narrower than people would expect. First-degree murder was generally reserved for very specific circumstances, and they were all defined by statute. So killing a police officer, murder committed during certain felonies, contract killings, torture, and especially aggravated situations defined by statute. So those are really the only cases that got tried for first-degree murder. Regardless, though, still given 25 years to life per person, per victim. In later decades, he changed his story many times. He claimed that his sister Dawn helped kill his family. He claimed that his mother actually killed the younger children, and in defense, Ronnie stole the gun from her and killed her and the father. He claimed that multiple people were involved, and he retracted every early confession entirely. None of these alternative versions were ever accepted by the court, and a year later, the house was purchased by the Lutz family. The Lutz family, whose claims of paranormal experiences became the basis for the Amityville Horror book and the later film franchise, that paranormal story eventually overshadowed the real murders in pop culture. We would go on to remember the ghosts, but on the morning of November 13th, 1974, there was no demons in the DeFeo house. Only 6 bodies and an alarm clock still ringing on the 3rd floor. Thanks for tuning in this week, guys. Like I said, this case is a doozy. I really went into the actual, just the actual case files. I read the book that was written by the prosecution, which is called High Hopes. It's really hard to get a hold of. They printed it once in, I think, like the 70s or the 80s, and then they stopped producing it. If you can get it online, I would definitely check it out. It definitely opens your eyes more to like the way that media changed this case into the movies and not the actual murders. I think that it's really unfair for a lot of the victims just to be almost sensationalized, you know, in a way that just they became the evil, right? Like in the house that was haunting them. I just think that's really weird, and I think the house is beautiful though. People own it still. It's a private residence, which is great, I guess. I guess the neighbors don't really love when people come around and start asking questions, you know, but that makes sense. 6 people were killed in the house, including 4 kids. It's not great. There's a lot more to this case, and I would love to get into more specific details or controversies surrounding the case. So if you guys want to hear anything like that, please let me know. I'd love to dig a little deeper into this one, but I just wanted to talk about this one because it doesn't get the attention that people think it gets, right? It's always overlooked by the horror story of the movies. You know, I think Ronnie acted out of pure hatred. The way he described his sisters and brothers and even his mother is just absurd. You know, in his interview, he described his sister as a fat pig, and his mother only could cook shit for dinner. He really hated them. He really hated his father. He really hated that dog. He claims he wasn't a big drug addict. Ronnie said he was a Saturday night user of heroin, but at the time of the killings, he had been shooting up for 2 years straight. Nice, Ronnie, you fucking idiot. You know, I think that it was greed and hatred driven. When he was driving with the cops the next day in their car, one of the police was like, you know, I can't believe you're not even gonna ask about the services for your whole dead family, you know? And he said, oh, am I supposed to do something for that? I don't really know. Can I also still get their life insurance money? Right? So like, it's very clear what happened, but the selling point of the story is so good. The Lutz family, who bought the home after the murders less than a year later, fucking crazy, paid $80,000 for that home, stayed there for 28 days and left, and then wrote their book. So I think it was exploitative. Everyone knew what happened in that house. I wanted to give my platform of 2 people, I wanted to give them a full view of the actual crime that happened. Give them the truth and not the story. Thank you guys so much for checking in this week. I love talking the story. I'm probably gonna do a lot more true crime, I think. I like my true crime voice, you know?
On November 13th, 1974, 15-year-old John Namath.
I think it sounds really good. Plus, I'm really bad at reading out loud. So, I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next week.